Dude, I figured to start things off on the right foot today. We should review DBrunski's review of my review of Diablo 4. And then if DBrunski does a review of my review of his review of my review, we're gonna have the best YouTube content, I think. Name a stream where we haven't kicked ass in some way. Name one. I'll fucking wait. I'll be right here. I got the Irish coffee going. All right, dude, let's check this out. I'm actually curious. I only watched the intro because I was like, you know, we ought to do this on stream at some point. We ought to check this out. But the intro was cool though. But yeah, let's check it out, boys. Let's see what DBrunski has to say. Oh shit, boys, I ain't even ready.
Diablo 2 fans, DBrunski here, and today's video is going to be a little bit different than my standard typical upload. I want to essentially play devil's advocate to Coooley's recently uploaded video claiming Diablo 4.
Who is that handsome fellow?
He made several well-articulated points. Again, I'll have his full video linked in the description below. Essentially claiming D4 will be dead upon arrival.
By the way, he said well-articulated points. Canadians are so nice.
And I think a lot of them are blatant assumptions, although with that being said, there is one that I actually do agree with. So
not total blatant assumptions. By the way, Crider Shot, cheers to you, man. Thank you.
Every different type of opinion, whether it's unlimited free trading, restricted trading, etc., to get the best end result for a game. I do think it's important to make sure everybody's voice is heard. But with that being said, I really couldn't stop myself from making this video because I think a lot of the assumptions are just blatantly wrong. So with that being said,
and also DBrunski's hoping that D4
is number one,
is dope.
By the way, before we even jump into this video, how the do you record videos with sunglasses on, Coooley? I literally had to re-record my intro like 10 times. So kudos to you, man. I don't know how I actually pull it off.
You got to mix up an Irish coffee, bro. It makes everything easier. Eventually, your eyes will assume what's there, and you won't even have to see. You might actually be able to record your videos blind. It's all about the rhythm. It's all about the flow.
But blatant assumption number one is assuming that once you hit a certain level that a single skill respec means that you need to completely invest in an entire new character.
And then there's the respecking in Diablo 4. Remember the good old days of Diablo 2, back before there were respec tokens? The good old days where if you misclicked a skill point at level 75, you deleted your entire fucking character and started again? Well, they're bringing it back in D4. They'll let you respec at low levels for cheap. But if you misclick after level 50, best be thinking about deleting that entire character.
I think it's a little disingenuous to insinuate that a single click once you reach a specific level, a misclick per se for a different skill that you didn't actually intend on investing in, means that you brick the entire character.
Well, maybe not one single skill point, but like redoing your entire character. That's exactly what they said. Like that's exactly what they said. Does he play the clip?
My sort of takeaway from listening to what Rod actually said.
There's going to be a point in time where you go,
yeah,
like,
he does.
Oh, I would like to be a different barbarian. But
yeah, like
it's
listen
too
to this.
expensive to undo everything I've done. It's actually better for me to roll another barbarian and start a new one.
Yeah. Like that's exactly what he said. You can't just token like you do in Diablo 2 and just like, you know, you can't go from like a Goldfind barbarian to like a PvP whirlwind barbarian. That's kind of what I take from it. Like it's too expensive and you might as well start another character. Now in D2 we're probably making 2 barbarians anyway. Like let's be serious. But like yeah, that's most certainly what he said.
In my opinion, Rod is saying again, now this is making a blatant assumption, so feel free to call me out if you disagree, but I'm sort of seeing this as, say you invest 60 skill points into Whirlwind, you make it to the end game, you start investing points in your Paragon board, you've leveled up some glyphs, you've inserted them, and then you decide, hey, maybe I don't want to play Whirlwind, I want to play Leap Slam. So respecking your entire Paragon board and all the way from the top of your skill tree to the bottom to those early investment skills and starting over, at that point it probably doesn't make sense, because if you look at the actual screen footage of respecking, it's early on 1 gold and that character actually has 350,000 gold. I can't see it progressing to the point where a single misclick means that you have to actually make an entire new character. I think it's safe to say that if you want to respec,
yeah, I think those are 2 different points. Like a single misclick, yeah, like, and that was me being like, you know, exaggerating. It's gonna feel like it did in D2, where like you remember that feeling that you had when you misclicked a point and like you literally couldn't do anything. it will eventually feel like that in D4, where you might be able to get away with one single misclick, but like you're not going to ever be able to reasonably afford redoing your entire character. I think he just took that literal. It was a bit of an exaggeration, but the point stands that like it will get to a point where it's just you brick your entire thing if you went down the wrong tree. I still stand by that.
These skills once you're level 80,
like, and especially whereas people won't have build videos right away,
visible,
I wouldn't imagine.
But there's a big difference between the two. At least there is in my opinion. Blatant assumption number 2. There will be no trading whatsoever in Diablo 4.
In game,
That's basically so to clarify, there won't be any meaningful trading.
game trading is difficult. So you know what? No trading. 80-0, 200 IQ.
I don't remember this actually specifically being said. It is difficult to sort of keep...
Yeah, I Googled it. I think I Googled it. And I kept getting a different answer every day I Googled it, but it boiled down to like there's basically you can only trade crafting materials.
Track of every single quarterly blog post and how it progresses, these IGN interviews and little snippets that you see on Reddit or Twitter. But the earliest that I can recall of any sort of restricted form of trading being mentioned was during BlizzCon, when they stated that there would be different types of items, some that could be traded a limited amount of times, some that were single trade, and then some that could not be traded at all. So
yeah, and so basically it's this, right? Like they did the same thing in Diablo 3, right? Initially, and it's to the point where that still can happen, and you have to forgive me, I'm not a huge D3 player, but I understand that there is still some trading in Diablo 3, but the practice is practically obsolete because there's only certain things that can be traded, and trading is in some way restricted. And as we can see with just about any game, if you restrict trading in some way, trading is inherently restricted. Because any game, like developers should take this to heart and they should design games around it. Any game you make, I don't care if you're making like a GTA game, I don't care if you're making a Diablo game, dungeon crawler, ARPG, if you're making a mobile game, right? Like the number one thing you should aim for in any game is player freedom. The greatest games of all time have involved player freedom.
A mixture of the two. Kind of similar to the respec system. We're not going with hard choices only. You're not able to respec, but we're not going willy-nilly. You can respec at any time. It's sort of like a hybrid between the two. I would assume that the team is taking a similar direction with trade because that has never been specifically mentioned. So I don't know where we get
it most certainly
that claim.
That's
of
what they're
everything
pushing.
Is soul-bound account-based items only. With
they will be.
Blatant assumption number 3. Unrestricted free trading equals no form of real money trading or pay to win.
People make the
Did I say
argument
that?
that having free trade leads to pay to win, and that's because they're confused. A pay to win game is something like Diablo Immortal, where you literally can't trade your items away. You have to buy them from the game and then hope that you get what you want. And if you're ever doing PvP in that game, you certainly need the best items. That one is certainly pay to win. Just because an item has value outside of the game doesn't necessarily mean that it's pay to win.
Who is this smart and handsome, smart and thin person articulating points? Who is he?
This is just entirely false. And I do want to point out that I agree entirely with this comparison of Diablo Immortal to Diablo 2 Resurrected, not being able to actually trade items, having to purchase them, and being required to have them to excel in PvP versus, I'm sure, a not top tier, but high-end ghosts and can still do very well in PvP. Sure, that is true. But you can at any point go onto any real money trading website and purchase any item in Diablo 2 Resurrected.
And thank God for that.
Some of the YouTube live streams of Asian Diablo 2 streamers, they are triggering Diablo-Con events from SOJs that have been sold from real money trading websites in Asia.
Right, but who wins off from that? Like, I do. When they pay for all these SOJs and they go and pop a declone server, who fucking really wins off of that? Like, I'll just tune into this guy's stream and realize he's popping the Asia server, go load up 3 clients of Diablo 2 on Asia servers, and I just got 3 Annies for free. I've got more Annies than I can count. I didn't pay for a damn one of them.
No restriction on trading. There is always going to be some form of service.
I take that back, actually. When Shirley Sirius told me that the price of 2020 Annihilus charms was like an insignificant amount of forum gold now, I certainly got 6 2020 Annihilus charms for dirt cheap.
botting or item sales in a game. You just cannot get around it whatsoever. I think it really just boils down to the degree of pay to win element with unrestricted trading. So
Right. And I think that actually is well said. I agree with DBrunski here. Like, it's so pay to win is this big umbrella term that gets lumped into everything. So and that was sort of my point, that if like anything has value outside of the game, suddenly people say the game is pay to win. And my point was, a true pay to win game is something like Diablo Immortal, where the player has no freedom and they have to pay for either things like loot boxes or chances to get certain items. There's no way to reasonably get them besides spending hours on the game or purchasing them from the developer in some sort of direct or random way, right? Like, that is pay to win in my book. Like, you either put a shit ton of time into the game, like an absolute unfathomable astronomical amount of time, or you pay for the random chance to get stuff, right? Like, there's a difference between that and having free trade that generates value of items outside the game. And I'm sure he goes on to elaborate.
So at the start of a ladder,
Thank you, Cried. Appreciate you, dude.
the first person that spends, I don't know, 20,000 forum gold to get the first Jaw Burn, to make Enigma, to get their Hammerton going, does have a competitive advantage. That's really only like up to the initial race to 99, and then past that, there's not really like a massive ability to pay to outright beat other people. You're sort of, I guess, in essence, kind of paying for convenience versus paying to win.
Good point. You're also paying to compete in PvP. You're paying to compete is more of what it is. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Any PvP player, like, if you're not trading, if you're not using JSP or tradery in some way to get items, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot, because you're not gonna find all of that stuff. But even the people who do solo self-found, like, you can go to pub games and with the right builds and the right matchups and the current state of the rock, paper, scissors that D2R is in PvP, you can still get wins. You can still, like, have a good time and play. But, like, there's a difference between going to a pub game and competing in the DFC, let's say, right? Like, the most competitive PvP organization in all of D2R.
With that being said, some of the screenshots of that Gosin, like Shadow Discipline Skiller with 45 to life, 3 2020s, that again is all stuff that
fucking Dazer
purchased through Forum Gold. And
it's fucking Dazer. Fucking Dazer's ruining it for everybody. God damn it, Dave. Why did I work with Dazer and put that video together?
Those type of items, I should say, don't see the light of day if it wasn't for botting. Now, with that being said, big disclaimer.
Botting or trading.
Here, I actually don't really care too much if people use Forum Gold or real money trading websites. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and I just don't care too much about these sort of topics.
I'll say this first of all before we move on. Dazer is like the richest of the richest 1% in on D2JSP, right? Like, richest of the richest 1%. This dude literally just had a million forum gold. Like, that's unobtainable for most people, right? Like, I don't see myself ever getting to a million forum gold. I have over 10K forum gold, and I'm like, shit, dude. Like, I'm gonna get me some shit, and and then you notice you're still kind of poor when it comes to, like, the super GG items. But, like, Dazer is like the richest of the richest 1%. But even after showing off all that gear, go ahead and ask Dazer how many DFC titles he's got. Like, ask. Like, that was mean. I should say that. Like, he's won a lot. Like, he's won a lot of other tournaments. He hasn't got a DFC title. Ask Dazer how many ladder seasons he's placed first in, or even in the top 100. Like, he's not, like, he's paying to compete is what it is. Like, he's paying to compete. And it's these people that are paying for the top tier GG PvP items that probably don't give a shit how they place on ladder. And you can thank the perfect balance of Diablo 2 for that.
I don't feel like arguing with people on forums. I don't really care if you do purchase items early on to get a little bit better in Diablo 2. I don't actually care. Like, I have taken or accepted Enigma donations like 3 or 4 weeks into a ladder with my character.
We all have,
to
dude.
have some fun. So I would be a hypocrite if I outright denounced it and just shamed people for using D2JSP.
Right. But like still, DBrunski never hit like the top one, even 100, I believe, of a ladder season. Even with all these donations, there's no one to demonize, I guess is what I'm saying. Because the two winners of the first two seasons of Diablo 2 Resurrected, one because they had a community behind them, which is something that all the forum gold in the world, it's hard to pay for, right? Like there's certain other factors that are far more important, like having friends, to help boost you up the ladder and fill your games up P8 while you go terror zone farming and stuff. Like that actually matters far more than your equipment. Far more. Your equipment does matter to some degree, but you look at Llama, right? Like you look at Llama and he placed first in season 2 and he had some decent stuff, but nothing that you really like. I'm sure his community gave him all of it, right? But it actually wasn't stuff that you couldn't have naturally either found or traded for in that same amount of time, right? Like within the first 5 days of ladder. Like if you really hit it hard and played that much, like it wasn't stuff that you reasonably couldn't have gotten. He didn't have an Enigma. I think he had like one bear rune in his armor, but it wasn't unreasonable stuff. He had a community. He had a lot of people. He had the friends to like fill up the game, which is far more important.
Formal, like I just really don't care. But to insinuate that unrestricted trading does not have a form of pay to win, like that pay to win in real money trading websites will be up and running shortly after Diablo 4. I will admit that I'm wrong if that's not the case, but if Diablo 4 is completely unrestricted trading, you will see that type of real money trading shortly after the launch of the game. So
you certainly will. I completely agree. I completely agree with that. I just don't think. I think if your game is designed properly, having real money value assigned to items outside of the game doesn't necessarily make it pay to win. And I know that's a tough concept to grasp, but like if done right, if your game is balanced right, like look at D2R, right, or D2 in general. Like the skills and how you've designed your character matters far more than your items. Far more. It's like a 70-30 split. You can't get to the top unless you've designed your character correctly. Like unless you've built an S tier class. And so then the extra 30% comes from how good are your items. The faster you are at farming, yes, it will make you slightly faster. Well, significantly faster if your items are really, really good, right? But like, let's be serious. In practice, it hasn't really mattered and that hasn't been the thing that's championed anyone to the top yet. Every time it's been someone who is actually completely opposed to not only JSP, but real money trading. That's been at the top.
So where do I close off this video? Well, I would like to state that I don't hate Coooley. Just because I
DBrunski
points doesn't mean that I don't think he's entitled to have his opinion about Diablo 4.
I'm just kidding.
I do agree with a couple of his points, which I do want to mention. He somewhat restricted open world access via unlocking like certain areas once you reach check marks along the quest line. It would be cool to see that sort of opened a little bit more. I do agree that a single player option would be really a welcomed experience as well, although that
two things to unpack right there, right? Like the single player experience I think is cool, but also I really said that out of it's like a trigger word, right? Because everybody's fired up about single player. There's a lot of single player streamers. I don't necessarily care about it. I don't really think it's honestly that important. But there are a lot of people who do. So the fact that it's like online only was an interesting trigger point to really fire people up, because and really just illustrate the point that like I think Blizzard is really losing touch with like the core concept, which is what I said, giving players the freedom to do what they want. They want to play offline, let them do it. They want to trade, let them do it. Like don't start setting up the restrictions, right? And the other thing for the restrictions was this open world. Every game created these days, you have to have that trigger word in there. It has to be an open world, right? But there's really not many that actually are, right? I made an example in my video about Breath of the Wild being an open world. That is an open world. GTA is an open world. Like you have a mission and something you should be doing, but you don't have to at all. Like you don't have to reach certain checkpoints to get to certain areas. Like you don't have to be a certain level in the game. Breath of the Wild is like, okay, complete these tutorial dungeons and then go do your thing. Like that is a true open world. Like D4 from what they've shown is not. It's like it's just a open looking world where you have to kind of progress, much like a lot of the open world games these days, along these yellow footsteps. You know, they'll show you the path, they'll guide you along the path, and you have to approach it in the way that they want you to. Diablo Immortal is a great example too.
Probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I do think it's fair to be cautiously optimistic about Diablo 4 because let's face it, the last two Diablo-related titles, one was a success, in my opinion, Diablo 2 Resurrected, and one was a flop, Diablo Immortal. So definitely...
Diablo Immortal was not technically a flop. Like, it might be a flop to the traditional, like, oh man, hey, we don't like how this was monetized, but let's be serious, this has made them $500 million, man. That was in no way a flop. That was in no way a flop. That was a good game. Like, you know, and that's the problem. That's the problem, is that Diablo Immortal was not a flop. Because now the community fucking hated on Diablo Immortal, right? And like it made them $500 million so far, probably more. So like now they're going back to this mentality of like, we don't have to listen to people. We don't have to care what they think. Fuck Coooley. Like, you know, fuck everybody that thinks what he thinks. Like, oh, we don't have to listen to them because if we do something right, we can make $500 million off it regardless of how people feel. Welcome to Blizzard Entertainment, boys. That's Blizzard Entertainment 2022.
I think it's fair to express concerns that you may have about Diablo 4, but I also don't like it when people just make blanket assumptions about the state of the game when we haven't even actually had an open beta yet. Like, I'm sure that's going to happen. That was another criticism about the closed beta. I'm sure at some point they're going to have an open beta. They did with Diablo 2 Resurrected. They did with Diablo Immortal. Like, that is coming down the pipeline. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom, guys. But again, let me know in the comment section below if you guys agree, disagree, you think I'm entirely wrong, you think Coooley's points were right, whatever. Any feedback is welcome. Other than that, guys, hopefully, you enjoy the video. And I'll catch you on my next video or live stream. Peace out.
Peace out. Good video. Like, I'm actually, like I said, happy he did it. I also don't hate DBrunski. DBrunski is one of my favorite content creators. Absolutely love this guy. Before I started streaming and making content, I looked up to this dude. I still do. I got a lot of respect for him. I like what he does. You know, I like his standpoints, and most of all, I like his approach and his respectful Canadian nature. He's a good dude, man. Really good dude. Like I said, freedom is the most important factor in any game. So the second you start limiting people's choices, people's ability to trade, people's ability to explore the world that they want to in a way that's free for them, their ability to play offline, and you know, do it like that, it's you're starting to bring the walls in, and it's not, I don't think, especially with a game that is going to be like a one-time pay, maybe you pay for updates later on or whatnot. I don't think that's a good way to go about it. You know, if you have a perpetually monetized game, something like Diablo Immortal, it'll work, right? But like, at the way that I see it at this point, if nothing changes, it's D3 all over again. And granted, D3 was an okay game, right? Like, it's an okay game. If you're aiming for a D3 number 2, like, it's not bad. It's still got a following. It's still got people coming back for all of the changes each season. But you know, you're going to pigeonhole your developers into making those changes. You're going to pigeonhole them into, you know, actually updating the game and coming out with creative new content for a game that, you know, is people paid once for it, and you know, you're trying to get them to come back. Instead, if you want to perpetually monetize the game, like, you just take this genuine idea, do an auction house that you do correctly. He didn't bring that part up in his video where I talked about, like, you know, an auction house that doesn't create a paywall. I think that's actually the answer to all of this. is, you know, open up unrestricted free trading and create an auction house in game that doesn't create a paywall, allows players to profit off of their time, their finds, their luck, all of this stuff to the people that want to pay for items. Let them do it, whether it's with an in-game currency, real money currency, like whatever you want to do. You know, allow them the freedom to do that, and you will see a cult following of D4 for years to come. And most importantly for Blizzard, a perpetual monetization of the game. And I know there's a lot of softies that don't like that because they hear money and they hear this perpetual monetization and they think pay to win. And I'll just go back to the original argument that if the game's designed properly, it doesn't necessarily make it pay to win. Just pay to compete in PvP, but at the end of the day, if your game's designed properly, none of that's going to matter to the truly motivated people that want to get there without paying a dime.